Fallen Angels and the Great War. How Samyaza nearly wiped out humanity? This angel is worse than Satan and is responsible for creating demons. The Book of Enoch describes a group of fallen angels known as the Watchers, and these angels are believed to be some of the first to sin against God. In this video, I will focus on the leader of these angels, Samyaza. How did Samyaza control the fallen angels? And how is the dark era when the earth was ravaged by the Nephilim mentioned in the Bible? Samyaza was responsible for corrupting humanity in the worst way imaginable. He led the 200 Watchers to sin against mankind, nearly wiping out humanity completely, and perhaps they would have succeeded if God hadn't intervened. This is how this angel nearly eradicated humanity as a whole. First, Samyaza had lust for human women. However, he was afraid to commit such a sin by himself. So, he told the 200 Watchers, "I fear you will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin." They all answered him and said, "Let us all swear an oath and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecation not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing." Then they all swore together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations. This agreement occurred on Mount Hermon. After the Watchers made this agreement, all hell broke loose. The result of Samyaza and the other Watchers interbreeding with humans were monstrous hybrid beings known as the Nephilim. These hybrids were so evil that they nearly erased humanity completely. The Book of Enoch says, "And they became pregnant, and they bore great giants whose height was 300 cubits. They consumed all the acquisitions of men, and when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Their reign began in the days of the righteous patriarch Jared, the father of the prophet Enoch." This incident is also covered in the Bible, which highlights how disastrous this moment was in biblical history. The Bible mentions how there were Nephilim on the earth in those days, in the book of Genesis, and also how the sons of God lusted for the daughters of men and created these hybrid beings. The Watcher's name literally translates to the sons of God, so the Bible was referring to these angels. Now I have to take a brief pause to ask you a favor. Please share your thoughts, your questions, and leave comments below this video. Sharing our experiences and opinions can be a source of support and personal growth. Together, we can create a smart and enlightened community. How did Samyaza and the Watchers rebel against God? In the Book of Giants found at Qumran, Samyaza, through this forbidden action, fathers two half-breed giant sons, Ohiah and Hahya. The Book of Giants is an apocryphal book that expands upon the Genesis narrative of the Hebrew Bible in a similar manner to the Book of Enoch. References to the giants are found in Genesis 6:1-4, the books of Enoch, Ethiopic, Slavonic, Hebrew, Greek, Jubilees, Genesis, Apocryphon, 2 and 3 Baruch, the Damascus document, and visions in Daniel 7:9-14. This book tells of the background and fate of these antediluvian giants and their fathers, the Watchers. But let's speak more about Samyaza's direct hybrid children, Ohiah and Hahya. Enoch was ordered by God to preach repentance to the giants and Watchers, so that they might avoid God's wrath and destruction. This act by God alone shows how forgiving He truly is in His mercy. God gave Samyaza's giant sons, Ohiah and Hahya, dreams, and these giants relayed the dreams to the other Nephilim and the Watchers. This assembly of Watchers and their giant associates were perplexed by the dreams, so they sent a giant named Maui to Enoch's abode, where he preached. Maui had been instructed that he must first hear the prophet speak before petitioning him for the oracle. Enoch, in his attempt to intercede on their behalf, provided not only the oracle that the Watchers and giants had requested, but also twin tablets that revealed the full meaning of their dreams and God's future judgment against them. When the Watchers and giants had at last heard heaven's response, many chose, in their transcendent pride and arrogance, to act in defiance against God, rather than turn from their evil ways. Let's now look at how the leader of the Watchers nearly wiped us out, and how this terrible angel, along with those who agreed with him, was punished by God. After Samyaza and the other Watchers created these creatures, they also began to teach humans forbidden knowledge that ultimately destroyed humanity. The Watchers' teachings caused humanity to separate from God. These angels taught us things like magic, forbidden arts, and sciences, all of which humanity used to destroy one another. Particularly, Azazel, another angel, is often highlighted as the one who taught the most destructive teachings to humanity. Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, and he made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them into bracelets and ornaments, the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, as well as all kinds of costly stones and coloring tinctures. Azazel is a chief watcher, directly behind Samyaza. If you would like a more detailed video on Azazel, comment Part 2. However, the focus of this video is on Samyaza, the leader of these angels. Samyaza taught humans enchantments and root cuttings, essentially teaching them about magic. The form of magic he taught was most likely dark magic, considering that everything these angels taught humans caused us to stray from God and destroy one another. If this type of content interests you, I ask for your support with your subscription, and don't forget to activate the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Thank you for being here, and let's delve more deeply into the world of fallen angels, the chaotic world under the rule of the Watchers and their offspring. During this time, the earth was in chaos. The hybrid offspring of the fallen angels, the teachings of the fallen angels, and the impact on humanity made the world a much darker place. Witchcraft became popularized during this period and continued afterward. We can see this kind of magic prominently in places such as ancient Egypt, where priests were the main practitioners of magic. In pharaonic Egypt, they were seen as guardians of secret knowledge given by the gods to humanity to ward off the blows of fate. We can clearly see that these so-called gods were actually fallen angels being worshipped, as the false gods warned about in Exodus 23-5. In ancient Egypt, the most respected users of magic were the lector priests, who could read the ancient books of magic kept in temple and palace libraries. In popular stories, such men were credited with the power to bring wax animals to life or roll back the waters of a lake. However, this magic was also used for evil purposes. Though magic was mainly used to protect or heal in ancient Egypt, the Egyptian state also practiced destructive magic. The names of foreign enemies and Egyptian traitors were inscribed on clay pots, tablets, or figurines of bound prisoners. These objects were then burned, broken, or buried in cemeteries, in the belief that this would weaken or destroy the enemy. This segment shows us how much this ancient culture was impacted by the Watchers' teachings, particularly the teachings of Samyaza regarding enchantments. Samyaza is directly responsible for what we now call the occult world, where magic is practiced among people who study the esoteric significance of our world. These very same teachings are believed to be practiced by those in power to this day, helping them maintain high positions in society and brainwash and deceive the masses to retain their power. To what extent did ancient kings believe in sorcery? A common theme is seen when we look throughout the history of powerful empires. Nearly all of the most renowned leaders of the time practiced or believed in some sort of mysticism to gain or maintain power. Look at the Egyptian pharaohs, for example. Even in death, magic was used in their ceremonies to cross over into the afterlife. All Egyptians expected to need Heka, which is Egyptian for magic, to preserve their bodies and souls in the afterlife. Curses, threatening to send dangerous animals to hunt down tomb robbers, were sometimes inscribed on tomb walls. The mummified body itself was protected by amulets hidden beneath its wrappings. Collections of funerary spells, such as the coffin texts and the Book of the Dead, were included in elite burials to provide esoteric magical knowledge. These spells that were taught to humans were not just myths either. At least 13 people who opened the infamous King Tut's tomb mysteriously passed away shortly after. Many of the cultures that practiced magic also have stories similar to that of the Watchers descending to Earth and manipulating humanity genetically. This story is prominent in ancient Mesopotamia, where deities known as the Anunnaki came down and then manipulated human DNA. However, for this segment, we will particularly focus on the Bible and what it says about this heavenly secret known as magic, which was taught to humanity by the leader of the sons of God, Samyaza. Magic is an ancient practice rooted in rituals, spiritual divinations, and/or cultural lineage, with the intention to invoke, manipulate, or otherwise manifest supernatural forces beings, or entities in the natural world. But when we ask ourselves how mere humans came into the knowledge of this supernatural understanding, it all begins to make sense and forms one big picture. As we look in the Bible, we see different forms of this practice being used for more positive purposes, such as contacting God before Samyaza demonized this practice. Genesis 12:6-8 says, "At that time the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, 'To your offspring I will give this land.' So he built an altar there to the Lord, who had appeared to him." Now, if we look back at the definition of what magic means, we see it also involves manifesting supernatural beings into the world. Clearly, this was done in Genesis 12 when Abram summoned God by creating an altar. As we can see, the natural and supernatural were always connected as God intended them to be. God gave humans a vessel to contain a soul in order to live a life in which we spiritually grow closer to Him, reaching a higher level of existence in the next life. Unfortunately for humans, however, Samyaza and the other sons of God drastically prevented humans from reaching the supernatural paradise, all due to their greed and fornication. Teachings such as magic separated us from God because they made humans rely on magic instead of God. The things the Watchers taught humans were not initially bad, but they taught humans how to use them for bad purposes, which led to our demise, but also led to the fallen angels and Nephilim's demise. In the end, God made these hybrid creatures, and the Watchers wage a civil war upon each other in retaliation for these abominations corrupting the earth. This destructive battle resulted in many of the Nephilim giants being slain, which was the purpose of the civil war. Then, the Lord ordered Archangel Michael to bind Samyaza and his associates for 70 generations, and after that time was up, they would be cast into hell forever. The final part of God's wrath was the Great Flood. The Great Flood was meant to destroy the remaining remnants of the corrupted genes on Earth. What people don't understand is that Noah was spared from the flood because his genetics remained uncorrupted, while the rest of the world was affected in some way by the fallen angels' genetic manipulation. Now, remember how I said Samyaza was responsible for creating demons? This is how the creation of demons came about. After Samyaza and his heavenly brothers created the Nephilim giants, and God eradicated them, their evil souls remained, becoming demons. To conclude this video, I want you all to praise the Most High and the Most High only. Do not worship or praise angels. That is not the intent behind making these videos. I create these videos to make it more enjoyable for you all to learn about biblical history so I can turn more people to God. Besides, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe for more content just like this. Thank you for watching the video. God bless you.